SCP Containment Breach masterfully implements phenomenal and original ideas of creative writing and unique world building perfectly into one surprisingly concise and amazing indie experience. Released on the 15th of April in 2012 and being updated until July of 2018, its developer, Eunice Rikkonen, based it off the paranormal sci-fi fictional stories of the SCP Foundation website, which writes about supernatural and scientifically unexplainable entities housed in containment to stop them from wreaking havoc onto the rest of the world. In it, the player controls test subject D-9341, who has to escape the underground research and containment facilities ran by the SCP Foundation amidst a containment breach caused by malfunctioning of the facility's power and door systems. The player has to escape from the containment center while avoiding previously contained creatures and security teams sent in to control the mess. It has a procedurally generated play area showcasing several popular SCPs from its wiki. The player has the need to blink every so often, which lets SCP-173 attack whenever it's nearby, taking on a sort of Weeping Angel Slenderman method of attack, with parts of the facility causing the player to blink more than often, like rooms filled with decontamination gas. New SCPs may appear in the randomly generated rooms, with others appearing throughout the entire facility. The game gradually becomes more difficult, needing the player to solve increasingly difficult puzzles, navigating tougher environments, avoiding enemies, etc. A sort of Half-Life style, but darker, literally, more mysterious, and more defenseless, although the player can collect tools to aid them in their quest, such as gas masks, batteries, keycards, and electronics. The way it's developed perfectly encapsulates the mystique, horror, and intrigue brought on by the original SCP stories by more than amazingly implementing them into an interactive medium. The game is highly atmospheric, as Rikkonen felt that the best way to create a truly scary game would be to focus on the environment and the soundscape, rather than exclusively the monsters. In an interview with Edge magazine, he said, quote, "I think one of the things that makes Containment Breach so scary is the player is almost never safe, and even the slightest slip can end the game. You have to constantly stay alert for SCP-173, listening for any scraping sounds and carefully looking around when entering a new room. The randomly generated map and randomly placed events are an important part in making CB scary too. No matter how many times you play it, you can never be 100% sure what happens next. I've also spent a lot of time looking for and making the sounds and music clips for the game. Atmosphere is one of the key elements of a good horror game, and a well-made soundscape adds a lot to the atmosphere." Unquote. And while Rikkonen found them to be a somewhat cheap way of scaring people, he implemented a number of jump scares to keep the players on their toes. He explained, quote, "When you're making a game about a creature that charges at you with supernatural speed when you're not looking at it, you pretty much have to have some jump scares." When Rikkonen first started working on the game, he was graduating from upper secondary school. While he enjoyed making games, he had always considered it a mere hobby and a pipe dream. However, after the success of the game, Rikkonen decided to pursue game programming at the University of Turku. Over the course of its development, SCP Containment Breach has become the combined effort of its community, relying largely on community-created contents for its updates. SCP-173 is what my mind gravitates to when I'm reminded of the mythos. It only moves when you blink, and can snap your neck if it gets too close, as you can plainly see at the very beginning of the game. Other characters, like SCP-096, is true to his described nature on the wiki, charging at you with nothing stopping him if you get a glimpse of his face. SCP-049 is just iconic, with the Plague Doctor being able to kill you by touching you. Yeah, some of these creatures are really out there, and putting God knows what into you to make you a zombie. I wonder if he's licensed to practice in the facility's jurisdiction, or licensed to practice at all. SCP-106, who can morph through solid surfaces at will, is especially relevant towards the end of the game, as the Nine-Tailed Fox Squad puts most of their focus on stopping him from getting out. The in-game mechanics of the SCPs accurately mimic the mannerisms taken from the wiki from the moment the door gets open to 173's room to the moment you step out of the facility running for your life. One of the plausible reasons fiction translates to interactivity so well in this case is excellent game design fueled by the passion from the project from both its developer and the fans of the stories. Over the course of 6 years, it's been updated, changed, morphed, revamped, fixed, and made any other improvement to make fiction fuse well with digital assets. This is why the SCP mythos was put into a video game. So wow.